I just quickly wanted to mention 3 mental health workforce programs that I've been involved in. The first one was Te Rau Puawai, and that was established as a scholarship program which focused on mental health. The Ministry of Health and Massey University signed a contract, and the contract said in 5 years' time you will have graduated 100 people with a mental health qualification. That happened, 104 after 5 years, contract extended, another 100, so that it was based on a notion of people enrolled in clinical psychology, nursing, social work and rehabilitation. So there were 4 programs at the front. The people who received scholarships were largely older students working in mental health services, so they had all the problems you have when you're working and trying to study at the same time. They were largely distant students, so that they were doing most of their work at night time. The approach taken that got the good results, I think, was very much an outreach approach. Every Thursday night, get a phone call. How are you getting on with your assignment? Haven't started? What do you have to do to start? You know, it's due in 2 weeks, and so they're very much an active approach. The other thing, twice a year, come together as a whānau. 100 people come together as a whānau. My job was to inject a sense of guilt that if they didn't pass, they were letting the whole Maori nation down. That worked, so that people were sort of on a mission, and the results were good. Not only the graduates, but the pass rates for these students is consistently above 90%, and that's compared to the university average. It's way above what the university average is, and it's not easy. Working full-time, worrying about mortgages, trying to deal with your kids, all of those things hard, but good results. And the approach, I think, has been an important one. The other program has been the establishment of a scholarship program. It's now called the Henry RONGOMAU BENNETT Foundation, which was launched earlier this year, but it had its origins as a scholarship program initially to get more people studying psychiatry. That was the aim of it. And it was quite a generous scholarship when it started out. One problem, there weren't many Maori doctors who wanted to be psychiatrists. So I think about 3 or 4, including people from this hospital board, were successful in it. But it was then expanded to include anyone working in a mental health area, and so the nursing, psychology, a whole range of addiction specialists were incorporated in it, and that's been a successful program as well. Moving now into the question of a program that's going to focus on leadership in mental health. And the third program was Te Rau Matatini, which is again a large Maori workforce development, mental health. Started out mental health workforce, then migrated a little bit into other things, A&D. It had some expertise in there, midwifery, and more recently public health. So these are just 3 examples of programs that have had a deliberate effort to expand the Maori mental health workforce. In so doing, they have moved into other areas as well, because it's hard, as I'll mention later, to separate mental health from other aspects of health care. Well, what are the results of all these initiatives? Has it done any good? Has anyone benefited from it, and how would you know? And it's a bit hard to attribute gains or actually additional problems to any one particular thing. But there are some things you can say. There has been, overall, an increase in Maori life expectancy. There has been an increase in life expectancy for all New Zealanders in this period we're talking about. The important thing is the gap between Maori and non-Maori is beginning to close. It was widening, now it is beginning to close. Is that due to the different ways of looking at health? Is it due to socio-economic? It's a bit hard to unbundle all that, but there is the beginning to see a reduction. You notice both for Maori women and non-Maori women, they live longer than men. That's quite usual in developed countries. And of course it reflects the huge amount of stress that men have to carry. even if most of that stress is self-inflicted. The other thing, now people say, well, the disparities between Maori and non-Maori are so wide. Has all this development of the last 25 years been a waste of time or not? You look at any statistic, and Maori tend to outnumber non-Maori. There's one problem. Well, sometimes it has. One of the problems of looking only at disparities as a measure of progress is that you ignore what happens over time. If you compare Maori immunisation rates now to 20 years ago, there has been a remarkable turnaround from under 50% now to close to 70%. That's a gain. That's a major gain. There are more Maori have stopped smoking in the last decade than ever before. There are more young Maori parents now who go outside to smoke so that they don't smoke in the same room as their children. They're real gains, which you won't pick up if you only focus on disparities. The disparities take a while to reduce, but you can see in 25 years there has been, if you go to a marae now, the food you get is very different from what you would have had 25 years ago. Lettuce and carrots. Well, in our marae, I had an auntie, we were very conventional marae, it was fatty food and lots of it, miles of steamed pudding with cream all over it. And I went on this campaign. It was a fruitless campaign, but I went on it nonetheless to say that we should change the way we do things, that you know, there's a new world, and the food we're serving is, we should be looking after our visitors, not trying to kill them early. And took it to my auntie, who's eventually agreed, so that she would have all the steamed pudding and cream and boil-ups on the table, and a small bowl of lettuce and a small bowl of carrots. And at the end of the meal, what was left on the table? The carrots and the lettuce. And she used that as evidence. Used that as evidence that my approach was completely the wrong approach. But there has been a change. If you go to marae now, so that they are gains that you won't pick up if you only measure the disparities in illness between Maori and non-Maori. The other is awareness. You cannot be healthy. You can't prescribe health to people. People have to do it themselves in the end. And the level of health awareness for Maori has improved. One measure of that is that in 1984, only one tribe, that was Tainui, had a health program, and the rest of them accorded very little, placed very little emphasis on health. The number one item on the tribal agenda was land. Number two was who would be on the paipai. Health didn't figure. That has changed now. Certainly if you go to most tribal meetings, health is pretty well up the top, near education, as an item that tribes want to get involved in. They want to be doing something in health. And that 65% of tribes in New Zealand actually have health programs that they deliver. And that's a radical change in recognising that a tribal group and a tribal organisation can play a big role in health. And in playing that role, they are saying to their own people, you've got to be aware of health issues and you've got to afford value to health issues. Then another result, I think, has been the way we do things in conventional health settings. That has changed. All cultural assessment is no longer a novelty, as it was at Tukunui Hospital some years ago and then at Carrington Hospital after that. It is now standard practice that people, particularly in mental health settings, that a psychiatric assessment, a diagnostic assessment, goes hand in hand with a cultural assessment and a social assessment. We've got to get a little bit better at fusing them. They tend to go in parallel. There's got to be a better way so that we have a formulation, and the formulation, which is the basis for a plan of action, the formulation includes the diagnosis, it includes a cultural assessment, it includes a social assessment, it includes an economic assessment, and then you decide on the basis of all that what is the most urgent thing to do. And it may not be related to the diagnosis at all, it may be related to something else which is of a higher priority. But what we need to get better at, I think, is having a formulation which encompasses many dimensions of a person's life rather than just the diagnosis. Diagnosis is really helpful, particularly in mental health. The DSM-3, DSM-4 was a big step forward. When I was training in psychiatry, the older psychiatrists would say to you, the word for schizophrenia in the old days was dementia praecox. They would say, the way to diagnose schizophrenia, you know you're dealing with it if you get the praecox feeling. And, and I said, can you explain a little more about the praecox feeling? Well, it's something you feel in your heart. What it meant, of course, if you didn't understand a person, must be schizophrenic. So the diagnosis, I think we got much, much better at it, but by itself, it does not form the basis of a treatment plan or an approach. I think we need to get better at putting together the various threads that are already been introduced into our services, just we haven't been able to work out yet how to tie them together. We will, and that's the challenge, I think, over the next year or two, challenge for Koawatea. Major growth, as I mentioned, in the workforce, and you pick up a few figures. The percentage increase of psychiatrists has been 500% increase. There used to be 2, now there's 10. The Maori medical workforce, a bit hard to tell because we didn't keep very good data until quite recently, but the guess was there was something like 50 Maori doctors in the early 1980s. There's now, someone said the other day, there's over 300, that this figure I've got is out of date. Number of dentists has increased, number of Maori health provider groups increased in a big, big way, and number of researchers who hold PhDs, there used to be a couple, now something like 32, largely due to the Health Research Council's proactive approach to growing Maori health researchers. So this, I think, represents a gain, and if workforce is a proxy measure for the way people are involved in health, then this, I think, is a good story. How am I going for time, Ben?